Hello.
Hello, Leemon. Thank you so much for joining us. So I don't think Leemon actually needs introduction, but everyone needs to be introduced. So let me provide a short introduction of who Leemon Baird is. Dr. Leemon Baird is an inventor of a Hedera hash graph. By the way, one of my favorite consensus algorithms. I have a PhD on the I made like a PhD candidate on the topic of directed acyclic graphs, and I was studying quite a few of them, and Hedera was one of my favorite ones. And hash graph was one of my favorite ones. And Leemon is the co-founder of Hedera and co-founder and co-CEO of Swirls Labs, which is the owner of intellectual property of the hash graph protocol. If I'm Leemon will correct me if I'm wrong. Leemon has also a number of various different experience over the 20 years of technology and startup experience. He has a positions of a computer science at the U.S. Air Force Academy. He is also a senior scientist in several labs and many other impressive things. So Leemon, I will leave it here, and please correct me if I made a mistake introducing you, and please expand if because you have so many different experiences which audience would love to know about.
Well, thank you. That was a very kind introduction. Ah, good. My slides are up. Okay.
So yeah.
Okay, good. That is great. So thank you for that kind introduction. Yes, I made the hashgraph algorithm and started Hedera, and we're developing Hedera. My talk today is actually not about Hedera or the hashgraph algorithm. It is about something that covers the entire blockchain industry and beyond the blockchain industry to basically the future of online work in general. And so I thought it would fit with the theme of the conference to talk about something more general. And so I'm not actually talking about Hedera today. I'm talking about DREC, which is a project that I would like to get everyone involved in. Every blockchain should be involved in this, and even people outside the blockchain world, like 1Password and even iOS and Android, really should get involved with this. This is something that people need, and it's really critical. It's going to be critical for blockchain or DLT to be adopted by ordinary people. So we are all about technology, and we're all enthusiasts. Maybe most of the people in this conference are very much into this field, but for the average person out there, this is all a mystery. All of this blockchain stuff is mysterious, and our tools are not easy to use. Our wallet software is not easy to use. We have lots of things we need to do to make this stuff very, very easy for ordinary people. And part of that is that it needs to be safe for them. This is the problem. Today, we aren't decentralized, we're centralized. The world is mostly centralized. Your bank account is owned by a central account. You go to a central stock market. Your house is something that you own and is bought and sold through centralized ways. This is the way it works today. And people know that they have a safety net if they lose information. If you lose the password to your bank, you know there's a way to get back into your bank account. Maybe you have to go down to the bank and show that you are you, or you show them your driver's license or your passport. Or maybe you ultimately end up going to a court and you have to get them to say, yes, you are really you, you own that bank account. But there's always some way to get back into your bank account if you lose your password. In blockchain, if you lose your keys, you lose your mnemonics for your account, for your wallet, you're out of luck. It's gone. You can't go to the court and say, could you please give me my crypto? They don't own it. They don't have any way to get it. Right now, in our world of DLT and blockchain, we're used to this idea that there's information you need to keep. And if somebody steals it, they steal your property and you can't get it back. And if you lose it, you lose your property and you can't get it back. And this is a problem for mainstream adoption. And we forget about this. We're so used to this. We forget about it. As the founder of Hashgraph or Hedera, I get emails from people that say, "Oh, I lost my mnemonics. Could you generate some new mnemonics so I can get it back into my account?" No, I can't. The whole point of the system is that there's no way for me to get into your money and take your crypto and your tokens from you. And if you've lost it, I can't help you. And people don't even understand this. That's why they would send an email saying, "Well, can you just make a new one for me?" Because that's exactly what you would do if you lost the password to your bank. And this is true right now in the real world. If you lose your passport, you can go back and get another one. If you lose the key to your safe, you can have someone drill out your safe. If you lose the key to your car, you can have a locksmith come get into your car for you. If you lose the keys to your house, you can put a brick through the window and get back into your house. There is always a way to recover. But right now, we have just lost this. Our community does not provide any way of doing that. And even it's outside of our community. There are websites where you have a password to get in, but if you lose the password, you really are out of luck. You've lost your account. You have to create a new account. Many people have had problems with this. So this isn't just blockchain. This is everything in the world where you have a secret. Tomorrow, we need to have all of these decentralized value things going mainstream. So I talked about cryptocurrency. If you lose your keys, you lose your mnemonics, you lose your password, you have to be able to recover it. If you tokenize physical assets, tokens, you need to be able to recover. Metaverse assets, stable coins, your voting power in a DAO, that's not an asset. That's not something of monetary value, but it is something of real value in the world. You need to be able to vote in your DAO if you have voting ability in a DAO. If we say we want to be democratic, okay, but if the voters can't vote, you're not very democratic. You really need to be able to vote, and you want to not lose your vote. And in a normal country, as a citizen, if you lose your voter registration card, there's always some mechanism to go re-register and get to vote. But for a DAO, if it's purely online, on-chain voting, you've lost it. Now, you could say, well, a lot of these things we could take care of with, we'll have, instead of passwords and keys, maybe your keys are protected by a password, maybe use passkeys. I really like that. And I've heard people say this, well, don't do all this stuff, do passkeys. Passkeys are a way to get into web accounts without having a password. Okay, I love passkeys. The world really needs to go away from passwords to passkeys. But what is a passkey? Ultimately, it's a secret on your phone, ones and zeros on your phone that make the passkey work, that prove that you are you. It has to be. There has to be some secret you have. And this is of value. What if you lose your phone? Or what if someone steals it? You could say, well, put a secure chip in the phone, but that's a problem if you lose your phone. And what if you get a new phone? How do you move it from the old phone to the new phone? So this is something we as an industry need to think about, and even the broader, just the whole future. Digital identity is the future, but it requires you to manage your secret. And in many ways, you can get down to where I only have one secret in my life I have to manage, and it manages all the other ones. But then I need to manage the one. And if I lose it, I lose everything in my life. So how can we do this? And when I say we, I mean not just Hedera, but the entire blockchain industry and these other industries. How are we able to do that? Okay, so here is what we need. If we want decentralization to go mainstream, we want decentralized blockchains and DLTs to go mainstream, we want decentralized even other things to go mainstream, DAOs and decentralized ownership of things. If we want it to go mainstream and to be adopted by everyone in the world, not just us, the enthusiasts, it has to have convenience. It has to be extremely easy, basically invisible to the user. The user has to almost not even know that it's happening. This has to happen. You cannot have a complicated system and the average person will use it. It just won't work. And then they'll eventually sign up for decentralized things, and the first time they lose their key, they lose everything, and they'll never go back. There have to be no intermediaries. Obviously, there's a simple solution to this. I'll have my keys to the decentralized world, and I'll hand those keys over to a custodian, and they'll keep it all for me. That's not decentralized. If I take everything in my life and have it controlled by keys in a decentralized world, and then I hire a custodian to hold my keys, well, then I have to trust the custodian. It's not decentralized. It's not trustless. It's not a better trust model. And you could say, well, you can trust your custodians. Sure, I can trust people like FTX to be a good custodian for me. Many people trusted them. Now, not your keys, not your crypto. The future of everything has to be decentralized ownership, decentralized identity. You need to have control of your own identity, but that involves a secret. It inevitably involves a secret. If somebody else can recover it for you, then you don't have security. I was talking to people even on other chains about this, and they were saying, well, we'll just set it up so that you have a helper, and this one person is able to recover if you ever lose it. Yes, but then if they're malicious, if they're evil, they can recover it and steal from you. So it has to remain decentralized. People have said account abstraction is wonderful. Hey, I agree. That's a great thing. You can do that on Hedera. You can do that on Ethereum. You can do it on many things, but it doesn't solve the problem because it doesn't solve the whole problem. Your helpers themselves have keys they need to protect. And in addition, you need to make sure that they still have it. So we need a safety net. Okay. So that's the world that we want. We all want to go to a world that is truly decentralized. And you don't have a centralized custodian. You don't have a centralized government. You don't have a decentralized person who will help you recover. We really want to go to a decentralized world. So custody, as I said, is not good because the custodian themselves could steal everything from you. By definition, they have all the power. Or they could lose everything, which is also good. And you also have to worry about spoofing. So the whole idea of a custodian is they're going to hold all my things, but then how do I prove to them that I am me? And I've heard people say, oh, well, you just have a password. Then what if someone guesses my password? What if I lose my password? There has to be a backup. There always has to be some way that we know we're not going to be spoofed. And you don't have to fool just one custodian. All right. So what can we do then to try to be secure? I also mentioned account abstraction. So social recovery, account abstraction, have other people help you. And this is good, but this is not enough. This isn't enough. So I need to have the reliability of knowing when my helpers fail. There can be multiple helpers that are going to help me recover, but I need to know when one of them loses my information, because if they lose my information, I am in real trouble. I will not be able to, people who, if they lose it, they can't help me recover. So I might eventually lose it entirely if too many of them lose it and I don't know about it. And if they lose it in a way that an attacker gets it, then an attacker can steal. So this is a problem for us. And then there is flexibility. We can't, they've set up the slides where I can't even see there it is. Okay. So we have flexibility. We want to make sure that we automatically know if somebody fails, and we remove them and just reshare among the remaining people without having to talk to anyone. We don't want it to be manual. It's got to be invisible, automatic, behind the scenes, done for me. That's very, very important. Also, I will point out that social recovery and account abstraction are generally about keys or things in a blockchain. We want to be broader. It is also very important that we are protecting passwords to get into other Web 2 websites. And we're also protecting the combination key to your safe. And we're protecting your identity if you have keys involved in your identity. All of those things. And so this is very important. We do need to achieve all of this. So here is DREC, decentralized recovery. Just like DeFi is decentralized finance, this is DREC, decentralized recovery. The idea is that you have your secret, which could be a key, it could be a password, whatever. It could be some kind of a credential for your identity. You split it into pieces and give them to your helpers. Okay, this is a common idea. Lots of people talk about this. This is the first step. You have to have this, but you have to have more. So you use Shamir secret sharing. It's cryptographically secure. It's been around forever. You have math proofs that it's secure. Even quantum computers can't break Shamir. It's information theoretically secure, very secure. You split your secret among all your helpers. And it's done with a threshold. So maybe I give it to 10 people, but any 5 of them can get together to help me. It'd be terrible if all 10 had to help me, because if one person loses it, I'm still back in the same boat. So you split it among your helpers, and there's a threshold. Maybe 5 out of 10 can help you, or 3 out of 5 can help you, whatever. You do want privacy. This is important. You do not want to reveal to the world who your helpers are, or even how many helpers you have. Because if you do that, then an attacker knows who to go attack. And they can try to hack into their computers, or they can try to coerce them, or they can try to bribe them and get them to help them voluntarily. There's all sorts of ways the attacker can attack you if they know who your helpers are. You want to keep that secret. That should be private. That's your own private information. Nobody should know who is helping you. So this is very important. You need privacy to hide your helpers and who they are. It should even hide how many there are, because then if an attacker figures out, if they know you have 5 helpers and they figure out 5 of your helpers, they know they're done. But if they don't know how many helpers you have, they never know when they're done. The most important thing is that invisibly, behind the scenes, if your phone is doing this, your phone needs to call each of your helpers every day, not the human, but the computer behind them, and make sure they still have the share of your secret. And they have to prove it to you. This is incredibly important. This, I would say, is the key to DREC, the most important part of DREC. Maybe I have a phone and you have phones and you're my helper. Your phone is keeping some secrets for me, a share of the secret, a piece of it. But every day, my phone behind the scenes needs to send a message to your phone behind the scenes and say, hey, do you still have my secret? In fact, here's a random number. Put it with your secret and hash them and send me back the hash. Let me know for sure that you have my secret. Maybe you deleted it and you're lying about having it. Or maybe you think you have it, but cosmic rays flipped one of the bits and you don't have it anymore. Now it's been corrupted. The system that I just said will automatically tell my phone if you have lost my secret. And so you have safety of knowing that when a helper gets a new phone and forgets to transfer your secret over, or they lose their phone, or they are malicious, or for some reason they've lost your secret, you will know it. Even just, bit rot on the hard drive or cosmic rays flipping a bit in memory, you will know it. And in fact, you don't have to know it, your phone will know it. And it can automatically take appropriate actions. Maybe the appropriate action is we shrink how many helpers I have, and then half of those can help me. That would be okay. That way, if you're losing one by one, you don't get to a point where you've lost half your helpers and you're out of luck. Or maybe the solution is my phone just tells me, hey, your helper doesn't seem to be working. You need to go talk to them and get them to help you again. If not, maybe you should go find someone else to be a helper. And if not that, don't worry, I've already reshared with the others, but now you have fewer helpers. And if I get down to too few helpers, my phone should say, sorry, you're no longer being protected, and warn me in very bold letters. This is what we need. And for ordinary mainstream users, it has to be invisible and something they never have to click something. If you have to click an OK to do this, it will never happen. Ordinary people out there won't do it. We're enthusiasts. We're willing to do all that work. Ordinary people out there in the real world will never be willing to do it. It also has to be automatic. If I change my secret, the new shares have to automatically be shared with everyone, and we have to automatically be verifying that they still have them. This is very important. That has to be automatic and invisible. When I add a new helper, all my old helpers need to get a new share automatically and invisibly. I don't have to think about it. It just has to happen. And all of this is invisible. And again, the helper who gets the new share doesn't even know whether they got a new share because my secret changed, or they got a new share because I added a helper, or they got a new share because I removed a helper. Total privacy. They don't know. That's what we need. And then there even needs to be a further step beyond DREC. The phase 2 of DREC would be decentralized custody. And here is where not only do my helpers have shares of my key, I don't have my key. I give up my key. This is like cold storage, super cold storage. They're not just a backup in case I lose my phone. They're a backup, and they have to be involved every time I move a token, every time I pull some crypto out of my account. They have to sign a transaction for it. So you would use that for cold storage. Presumably, you'd put a lot of valuable stuff there, and then you would only have to bother them when you want to take a little chunk of it and move it into your daily account. But for your long-term cold account, you would have that. That is a multi-party computation. That's a phase 2. It's obvious how to do it. It's equally invisible, except you might say, I want humans involved in the signing. And then maybe you have a video with them and they have to sign. So it's inconvenient. You would do it infrequently, but that's the nature of cold storage. But that's a phase 2. For the rest of this talk, let's just talk about phase 1, where we aren't even doing the decentralized custody. We're just doing decentralized recovery, because that is what this world needs. This is what the world needs if it wants to go decentralized. If we ever want to get away from centralized, we have to do that. So how does it work? You have the user. I'm saying a phone. These don't have to be phones. They can be laptops. They can be desktops. They can be big servers at a corporation. Maybe a corporation is your helper and they have a big server. All of those things they should be able to do. So you have a user, but in this case, I'm just showing as an example the user. So the user then goes to people and says, would you be my helpers? So here we have 4 helpers, and we can even talk about ways of making that easier for them. You establish a relationship with the bank and they set up your first few helpers for you, just as part of their helping you. You have to trust them at the very beginning, but then you never have to trust them again. They're just one of many helpers. You can do this sort of thing. So it's invisible. So you might even get a few helpers invisibly. And then the user at any moment can add more helpers. You can add your friends and family. You could add your banker. You could add your lawyer. You could add a company whose sole goal is to be a helper. All the custody companies should go become helper companies, because we won't need them to be custody anymore, but we need them to be helpers. They can do helper as a service. So this is how you get your helpers. This is great. Now, what if I lose my key? Here I'm envisioning that I've lost it accidentally. I've lost my passwords. I've lost my secret. What do I do? Well, of course, I go to my helpers and they bring it back to me. And now I have my key again. That's what the whole goal is. And I don't need all my helpers. I just need a threshold of them. I think half is a good thing. I help the ordinary people out there can understand a half. You need half your people to help you. But of course, you could do this with other fractions. But I think a half is probably the most user-friendly, easy to understand fraction that we should use. So I recommend a half. I would strongly recommend everyone do a half. So what happens? Each helper in this picture gets 1/4 of the secret, and you can't learn anything at all. It's information theoretically secure. You can't learn anything at all from that 1/4 of the secret. And then when you add or remove a helper, everybody else gets new shares. So if you really want to remove that one, you no longer trust that person with the red X, or maybe they've left and you just don't care, 3 is good enough, then automatically it gets reshared to the 3 people. And now each of them has a third rather than having a quarter. And maybe your threshold out of a quarter, it took 2 out of 4 people, and then maybe it's going to be 2 out of 3 people. Maybe that in this picture, that's what it would be. You can set the thresholds. You verify it once a day, which is the most important part of all of this, and it can recover your lost secrets when you lose your lost secrets. So this is the decentralized recovery. And then, of course, we can also add decentralized custody as the next phase of it, where they also do jointly signing transactions for you, and you don't even have your key. But let's keep talking about the decentralized main recovery, the phase 1 of it. Okay, and then I did mention there is a way to monetize this. You can be a helper as a service. You can do this for your friends and family, be their helper, but you could also do helper as a service. And you can do it symmetrically. If I become your helper, you become my helper. You can do it asymmetrically, where I just ask you to help me and you don't ask me to help you. That works too. So I do believe the whole world is going to end up going to decentralized custody. There are too many problems with custody. You can never trust someone. And there are cases where people have had problems. So you want decentralized custody. And then all those companies that are currently being custody companies become, instead of custody companies, they become helper companies. And you may not trust them to hold everything, but you trust them to be one of the 10 people holding a share. That's great. You need protocols for how you communicate over the internet. It's all about protocols. So when I add a helper, there needs to be a standard protocol for how we talk to each other. When I need to redistribute secret shares, I've updated my secrets. Maybe my secret is a list of passwords and I've added a new password to the list. So I now have a bigger secret. My secret has grown. What I need to do is redistribute all my helpers a new share. So I need a protocol for how do you do that? And how do you get a handshake from them? Okay, I now have it. I verify it for you. And then how do you go back and tell the others, okay, you can throw away the old one because they have to keep the new one until they have the old one is verified with everybody. So you have a 2-phase commit kind of a thing. All of that has to be in the protocol. And so, honestly, these protocols are simple, but they need to be interoperable. We all have to use the same protocol. It doesn't matter what protocol we use, but it all has to be the same protocol. And so you should join our project. Every ledger, every blockchain that is on this call should join this project. This is not a Hedera project. The DREC Alliance is just going to be for DREC. We should all join it and together make these protocols. And again, these protocols aren't hard, but it has to be interoperable. You don't want to have wallet software for one blockchain and wallet software for another blockchain, and they can't even be helpers for each other. You want everything to be interoperable. And I'd like things like 1Password to be interoperable. Eventually, I'd like this to be built into iOS and into Android. So every phone is interoperable using this protocol. You also need the protocol for the daily check. That's really important. I would say that's the single most important thing, is that invisibly behind the scenes, you're checking every day, because I guarantee you people will lose your secret. No question, it will happen. So fine. If I have a whole bunch of helpers, I don't care if one loses it. As long as I know about it, I can take steps to correct the action, the situation. No problem. But I guarantee it will happen. And if you don't do any checking, they'll lose it one by one. And when you finally need your key, Murphy's Law says you will not be able to get it back. You will not get your secret back. You're out of luck. And then finally, the last protocol will be to jointly sign. That is not a protocol that's been written yet. But these other four, we have drafts, and we welcome you to join this alliance and help write these drafts. Help design the protocol at the beginning. We have implementations. Help us change it to be better, and we'll make new implementations. Add more implementations. This is what we need. So those are the four protocols. We actually want to submit these as an RFC to IETF, make it an actual internet protocol for these four things, because it's all about being truly interoperable, just like the web is interoperable, just like TCP/IP is interoperable. This needs to be interoperable. So everything in the world, it is interoperable, where it can have a secret and you can be the helper using different software and you can talk back and forth. All right, so we have all of that. It should work with any secret. I've said that, including passkeys, little notes you keep to yourself. Maybe you have a secret recipe. You want to keep it secret. Even that. All of this should be secret. DIDs for decentralized identity. I think that's very important, but it always involves, if it's self-sovereign, sovereign means you control it. How do you control it? Because you know a secret key that no one else knows. It's inevitable. When it needs to work with any ledger or software, it needs to be entirely open source from the beginning. We've been using Apache 2 for everything so far. I think Apache 2 is good. We'll probably stick with Apache 2. But if you join the alliance and you say, really, it needs to go to MIT or something, we can talk about that. Who cares? But it has to be open source, a very permissive license. We have a demo app. I won't show that today. I wasn't sure of that technology being able to show it on this thing, but we have a demo app, and you can get that and play with it put it on some phones and have them talk, and they look at each other's barcodes and they link, and you lose it and you recover it. It's very cool. And then of course the protocol standards. This needs to be standardized. We have these draft standards. You should come help us build better draft standards and then submit them as real standards. This is the goal. Okay. So what resources do we have? So we have an API, which is just sort of Java interfaces that are between the library and the app. We want to have this API in many different languages, but all be very similar. And then for any given language, like the Java API is just some interfaces, we want to have multiple Java libraries behind it. Everybody should write their own Java library. And we think many, many different languages need to be supported. These libraries are designed to make it extremely easy for an app to add it. And this is incredibly important. I've been saying we need to make this easy for the end user. We do. And we need to make it easy for someone who wants to run a helper as a service. We need to write software for them that's open source and free, and they can run helper as a service easily. But in addition, we need to make it just incredibly easy to add this to any existing app. Do you have a wallet app for any blockchain? It should just be a few lines of code, a call out to this library, and now you are a helper and a sharer, both for DREC, and you will interoperate with anyone else who's done it. And even if they've implemented it in a different language, it'll still interoperate because we're communicating through these standard protocols. And the protocols are very, very simple. We've tried to make them just incredibly simple. So the API is critical. We have to make it easy to do this. We do want to make these RFCs so that the protocols themselves become standard. Then you don't even have to use these interfaces. You don't have to use these APIs. You can write your own, which you can do today. You just make sure you implement the standards. We need RFC standards. By the way, we're also, as a group, going to be writing software to check it. And perhaps the DeFi Alliance DREC Alliance that all of you are maybe joining will be able to have a suite of software tools and can then put its stamp of approval on software and say, yes, you really do speak the right protocol. We approve that you speak this protocol. So we'll have a test suite. This is something that we should build. The test suite we haven't started yet, but we have done all the other parts I've talked about. Resources. So there are lots of resources here. There's this demo app, and you can download it and play with it, and it's kind of fun. Yeah, that's fun to play with. You can also look at videos where I demonstrate it on the screen. And so you can see I hold up the phone, and then I also have a way where you had some web browsers. So it was something living in a web browser on a computer and a phone talking to each other over the internet. And the system allowed the web browser windows to appear on the screen very nicely. And then I had a camera just showing you the phone, all of that. You can play with that. These are resources that you can play with. So you can play with the demo app, and that's a good resource. There are other resources the Alliance really should have. Like we were talking about this. If you're going to have a helper as a service, the helper might want to know under what circumstances am I allowed to give you back your share? Is it enough that you just come in and talk to me? Or do I need you to do certain things to prove that you are you? Or what if you are incapacitated? How much of evidence do I need from a court that you are incapacitated before I give it to the people helping you or your heirs or whoever? All of those legal questions. So probably people will want to have some kind of a legal document saying what the rules are. And each helper will have this document. They get it from the sharer and the two agree on it. What would be helpful? And it's already in the protocol. You can send a PDF file that is the legal document you're agreeing to, and the two of you agreed to it. But what would be helpful maybe is if the Alliance had a bunch of these. And so maybe we can create these as a group and have resources for the world of just some pre-built legal contracts that maybe people can choose one of them and use it if they want, or they write their own. But just to make it easy. It's all about making it easy. And so, you can contribute that to the Alliance too if you want. Come help us write the legal documents. All of these different things. So there are videos that have been made. Here's a couple of videos. New videos are coming out. This video right now is going to be added to the list. If you go to the Hedera side channel on what is it? YouTube has a Hedera channel. You can go to the YouTube Hedera channel and see a bunch of these videos. But also the DREC Alliance will be rolling out a website at some point. You'll be able to easily do that. Those are all the resources. And I would just encourage everyone to come and help us build these resources and help us because we need this. Let's be honest. We need this in the blockchain industry. We need this in the decentralized industry, which maybe is slightly bigger. We need this in the Web 2 industry if we want to ever make these things be decentralized and you don't lose your keys and your life isn't disrupted. And so I would invite you to get in contact with me and let's make this happen. Okay. Well, I think that was my time. Are there questions?
Yeah, there are definitely questions. There will be some questions. Thank you so much for this presentation. This is, by the way, a very good solution to the problem, which was I remember I first read about this problem in the major media where they say, okay, one of the biggest problem of mass adoption of blockchain is actually people are going to the conference and describe the differences between encryption algorithms, right? And but it doesn't solve the problem. Okay, if I lost my keys and I lost all my life savings and I'm not able to retrieve it, how does it help me? And this is exactly the solution. And I actually, I wrote the question was, does it only support Hedera? And if not, which protocol it supports, which protocols it supports? But you answered that probably you are not limited to Hedera and you can support pretty much. How you are limited with protocols, by the way? Are there protocols you don't support?
No, it would support any protocol. It supports keeping any secret. So if any protocol has a secret key involved in accounts or whatever, it supports that. Even if you're doing things that are not technically keys, but they are secrets that you need in order to do zero knowledge proofs, it supports that. Even if you're just using passwords, just a website you log into and you have to type a password, it supports that. What we want to do is make it super easy for any software that users use. I talked about wallets. Any blockchain's wallet software should just, with a few lines of code, that whoever built this wallet software should be able to use this library to become a helper or a sharer. It should be able to support absolutely every blockchain in the world, but go far beyond blockchains, far beyond blockchains to everything. And my vision is that eventually it will be built into iOS and Android. And all of the secrets that iOS and Android, right now they'll store your passwords for you, and they'll store some keys for you, and an app can store secrets. It should protect all of those. I think I trust Apple Corporation. I think I have secrets being sent off to Apple Corporation, but I'd much rather not have to trust Apple Corporation. And actually, that brings us to the first question I see. How to ensure helpers do not cooperate? What a great question. So, we confuse ourselves, I think, with our terminology. We talk about trustless. What you always have to trust is that not everyone's going to gang up on you. Okay? For every blockchain, we say it's trustless. Well, I'm trusting that not all of the validators are evil. If they're all evil and collaborating, then of course I can't trust it. So it's not that it's trustless, it's that I'm taking this very low bar, very easy form of trust, of that I don't trust any one person, but I trust out of this whole group, they're mostly honest. And then I'm turning that into I 100% can believe everything in my life is secure. Same thing here. Maybe you don't trust any one particular one of your helpers, but you trust they're mostly a good group, and maybe there's one bad apple in the barrel, but they're mostly going to be good. And so you're trusting that you're not going to have the majority of them suddenly delete your backup when you need it, or suddenly start to try to collaborate to steal from you. But in addition to that, I want to trust as little as possible, which is why I think it is so important that your helpers don't know who each other are. Even during recovery, the protocol never has the helpers talking to each other. They only talk to you. They never know each other exist. They never know who each other are. They never know how many helpers there are. That makes it harder for them to cooperate with each other, to collude and steal everything from you, because they don't even know who each other are. And if you're doing something like you hire a helper as a service company, yes, they could be evil. That's why I don't trust them to be my custodian. But it's going to be a higher bar for them to be evil, because that's the whole purpose of their company. It would put them out of business if they got caught colluding. And if I have multiple different helper as a service companies, well, then I have an even better trust, because they would all have to collude, or half of them would have to collude. And I'm also going to get my mother to be a helper. I really trust my mother. You go out and you get your family and friends, you get your lawyer and your banker and your stockbroker, or whoever professional helpers you have in your life. You already are trusting them. Now you don't have to trust them nearly as much. And you're not telling them who each other are. So it's already very hard for them to figure out who to go collude with, even if they were evil. This is so important. The privacy part of this is so important. And so that's it then. You just need to pick 10 people where you don't trust any one of them, but you trust you aren't going to have 5 of them be evil. That's what you do.
Yeah, well, this is thank you so much for this response. It actually partially addresses the question which was asked by the community of visitors of this conference, how to ensure helpers do not cooperate.
Yes. How do you make sure they don't cooperate? That is so important. And a new question came in. Should offline ownership be distributed to, and how? I really like this. So here is my vision of the future, is basically everything will be tokenized. The world will be tokenized. I think everything of value in this world will ultimately be tokenized. So let's talk about offline ownership. I own a house. Okay, I don't own a house. I live in an apartment. But if you own a house, you can say, I own this house. This is offline ownership. And I have a deed. And when I bought the house, I spent weeks doing a title search, because it's a nightmare to try to figure out whether someone else owned that house. But I own this house. I would say such a person should tokenize their house. In fact, I talked with a woman who had tokenized her house on Hedera. She had used Toko, and she had used a system where she had tokenized her house. And why would she want to do that? Because of all the benefits you get from it. she was actually part of a whole new way of having a house. Today, what do? Either you buy a house with money, or you go get a mortgage, a loan, and there's one bank giving you the loan, and you get the house that way. Or you go find someone who owns a house and you rent it from them, and you have one owner and they're renting it to you. Or perhaps there is an REIT, real estate investment trust, that has a number of these owners in it. These are the ways today you can go live in a house. What other way is there? Well, if it's tokenized, she set it up where she pays rent that automatically splits to whoever is holding the tokens. And the tokens can be sold to other people and they now get the rent. And they could even be anonymous people holding a token and they get the rent from the house. And it enables a whole new way to be able to get a house. Maybe I don't have a good enough credit rating to get a loan and I don't want to rent. I want better things than renting from a single owner. And I could set this up and I could raise the money for my house and easily be able to get a house. So I think offline ownership of things like houses is going to be tokenized. And then also, then when I want to sell my house, if I own the whole house as a token, if I want to sell it, I sell it very, very easily. On a Hedera, it'd be 1/10 of a cent. So it's 1,000th of a US dollar to sell somebody my house. That would be the price to sell somebody my house. And if you want to do a title search, you just look on the ledger and you see who owns the house. I think that the blockchain world is so tiny right now compared to what it's going to be in the very, very near future. Everything in the world of value is going to be tokenized. But there is one big problem with taking offline ownership and turning it into online ownership. And that is that token is held by an account that is protected by a private key. And if anyone knows my private key, they steal my house and I can't get it back. And if I lose my private key, I lose my house and I can't get it back. Well, I could never sell it again. You've got to protect that private key. And so DREC is the key to getting the world to be able to protect their keys and then to tokenizing everything. And someday there almost won't be offline ownership. Anything of value, even abstract things, the right to have lunch with a celebrity will be tokenized. Already Galaxy on Hedera is tokenizing voting Spencer Dinwiddie what shoes he will wear at the next basketball game. It's just crazy. All sorts of new things get enabled by this. I believe the world will be tokenized and DREC will make it safe enough for ordinary people to let that happen.
Well, thank you for this answer. I think it addresses the next question would be should offline ownership be distributed to and how? And I think you just responded to it.
Yes.
So the last question, I think basically you said many protocols and many users can be joining. Basically, protocols and not only protocols can be joining the system. Can you please provide the way? Where should they go? Is there a website? There is a form there, or they should just email you?
Yes. So I don't want this to be a Hedera thing. We want the DREC Alliance to be its own thing. And we're in the process of creating a DREC Alliance that will be run by itself, by its own members. What I would suggest is send me an email and I will get you plugged into this and you can help us form it. You can be one of the forming members of it. Right now we have banks and credit unions and wallets and I think some other people also involved right now. Blockchains. Right now we have a number of different people involved. I would like to get more. And then there will be a website, drecalliance.org, but it doesn't exist yet. We want to do it right. Everything we do at Hedera, we try to do right, but this is just my personal bias. I want to do things right. So come and help us design what it will be. And then it will have these libraries. Come help write the libraries that follow these APIs. Hey, come help write the APIs that are then implementing this protocol. Hey, come help write the protocol. Help us submit it to standards bodies to become a protocol. Help us write the legal documents, help us write the advertising, all this stuff. And when I say us, I don't mean Hedera, I mean our whole blockchain industry and the wider industry. And that is it. And not just that, that's how you get involved. Send me an email. And I see the other question, does it mean that this can be covered just by distributed currency? Well, crypto is a distributed currency, but it's protected by a key, and the key will be protected by DREC. We need this for crypto to go mainstream. Stable coins are distributed currency. Same thing. You're protected by a key. We need this to go mainstream. CBDCs are a digital currency if they end up happening, and maybe they will. But ultimately, in a CBDC, your assets are protected by a key, and DREC is the key to making this go mainstream. DREC is what we need for even currency to become distributed and decentralized, and this is what the world needs. We've got to get away from being centralized. This is what we need. Everything decentralized, everything open source, everything I never have to trust one person, I just trust a group not to be too evil. Everything needs to go that way.
Well, Leemon, thank you so much for addressing all the questions, and you just addressed the last question from the community. So yeah, I expect you will be receiving at least a few emails from our audience. This is the great product. Thank you so much for presenting it, and thank you so much for joining our conference. It's always a pleasure to hear your presentation.
Thank you. It was great being here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You
Bye-bye.
too.
Thanks.